Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by Genesis House, FirstNet, built with AT&T, and the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts,
Podfather,
Jersey Ed,
and Noontime with Skylar Noon,
as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery.
Everybody, welcome to friendsrecoverypodcast.com. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here today with my good friends,
Jersey Ed, everybody. How you guys doing?
And it's Noontime with Sky.
Sky, yes.
What's up, Sky? We have a very special guest today, guys. Seth Perry.
Oh.
Good. Seth Perry. Real quick, I just want to give everybody a little teaser. He's sitting in that bottom corner there, just waiting to explode. But we're gonna have him sit back a little bit. So Seth Perry, his YouTube channel is very simply titled Seth Perry. We'll find out more about that. You got to stay tuned. So, sorry, Podfather, what were you asking?
No, I'm just checking in, see how everybody's doing.
We're doing good. How about you, Sky?
Doing pretty good. I had a tooth pulled this week, and that was definitely interesting. You know, first time recovery doing something like that. And, you know, it's cool because I got through it and it wasn't as scary as I thought. I walked through the fear, and that's all that matters.
Nice.
You know?
Yeah.
And guys, real quick, if you really want to know about Skylar's tooth being pulled, send us an email at help@friendsrecoverypodcast.com. That's help@friendsrecoverypodcast.com.
If you never know, we might be having a tooth pulled and you need someone to talk about.
That's right.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
People, hey, listen, as a therapist, I'm telling you, I've driven clients, I've driven them to get their teeth pulled. How's that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
and if you want to hear Skylar getting her teeth pulled, you can call us at 617-379-1163. No, you won't hear her, but we'll respond to your call. Keep those calls coming. Also, guys, we also want you to send us your sobriety date so we can read them on the air, give you a sobriety shout out. Doesn't have to be this month. It just we'll get them out there. So anyways, guys, are you ready for the big guest today?
Yes,
we're ready.
Definitely.
All right, I'm going to read.
You ready to read?
Here. I am ready to read, guys.
Okay.
So
This is my favorite part of the podcast.
This is everybody's favorite. This is where I get the email saying you're the best reader ever. I had numerous job offers that I had to turn down in Hollywood because of this. Okay. I said, no, I got to stick to my recovery. I like my podcast. That's it.
That's right.
Oh God. So
Selfish.
That's right. I am very selfish. So today our guest is Seth Perry. He is a recovering addict, pastor, and video creator living in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. He has a master's degree in theology. Jesus, I even practice it. And a bachelor's of fine arts in film production. Seth got clean in April of 2010. And he works as a chaplain in a treatment center, an addictions counselor, and a support worker, and has also managed sober living. In his final 6 years of active addiction, he was a stand-up comedian. He left life on stage behind when he got clean. We want to talk about that. Seth's greatest strength is talking about spirituality and recovery in an exclusive way. When he works with his fellow addicts, he takes a broad approach, not a broad approach to spirituality. Seth recognizes we live in a diverse world and spiritual caregivers must adapt to each individual's unique context. The broad approach to recovery is expressed in his video content that he produces on his new YouTube channel, simply titled Seth Perry. And I'd like to welcome Seth Perry to the show.
Welcome, Seth.
Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right, Seth. Thanks.
Good to have you.
Yeah,
thanks for coming.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself and not your broad approach, your broad approach, as I wanted to say.
Yeah. I have a lot of explaining to do when I tell people that I'm a pastor. They need to know like what that could mean so many different things. And how did I end up becoming to be a pastor? And really, I mean, quite simply, I had one goal in life for the first 29 years, and that was to be involved in entertainment in some way. And it ended up, me going to film school, me going to theater school, and then ending up doing stand-up comedy. The whole time nursing an addiction. And then at age 29, everything came crashing down. And I had to leave it behind. I had to pack up 2 duffel bags in my apartment, leave that whole mess behind, go to treatment for an entire 5 months, and then emerge and take a retail job and completely reevaluate my life in my first 3 years of sobriety and get humble. Best decision ever to just get humble again and refocus my life. And during that time, then, becoming a pastor, that actually just sort of floated my way. And I decided to take that. And that's the journey that I've been on now for the last 8 years. I got my master's degree. I did an internship as a pastor. I spent some time as a chaplain at a treatment center. I also worked in an Indigenous treatment center with First Nations people in Canada, and learned about their whole spiritual existence. And now here I am. I've got my own church in Kingston, Ontario, and I do work with folks in incarcerated people, and I work with people that are, retired, that come to my church, and it's just a broad. A broad palette of challenges every day when I'm at work. So,
hey Seth, I have a question. Did your spirituality become awakened as a result of recovery and the 12 steps, or did you always have spirituality and it was just kind of in a hidden spot?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because I don't think that I'm super typical. I had a really good upbringing, and I really took to church as a child. And I think that I had some sort of spiritual awakening as a kid, as a preteen and as a teen. But then I started using, and the light switch was flipped off for a while. But then I had a new discovery at age 29. So I think that it was just sort of revisiting the fundamentals that I discovered as a kid. So in many ways, yes, it was a spiritual awakening, but also it was like a homecoming to me, that to rediscover what, all the compassion and that I really, embraced as a young kid going to church and everything. That, like, when I rediscovered compassion and gratitude and stuff, I was like, wow, this is really truly who I am. Yeah,
it's like finding a new drug. It literally that's kind of what hope felt like to me, and still can feel like to this day. It feels like a new drug,
I like how you said spiritual awakening. It felt like a homecoming. Can you share a little bit more about maybe a spiritual awakening versus a homecoming? It's a homecoming versus, you've been there already. Spiritual awakening to me is like, oh my God, it just opened my eyes to this new thing. I had a spiritual awakening, but I like this homecoming thing. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my work as a chaplain in a treatment center, I'd have two types of people. I'd have people who grew up in a completely secular life where they had parents didn't take them to church. But then I had people that had, your various spiritual upbringings, right? You always run into Catholics that were raised Catholic, and then they're like, I don't know anything about Catholicism. I'm not into, and that's what I see. That's what I read on the wall when I read the 12 steps. I just see Catholicism up there, right? Because the word God, that's what it means to me. And the same people, you get the same sort of feeling from Jewish folks too. It just doesn't, whatever context you grew up into. So really the homecoming part of that is let's reframe and rediscover what was working for you as a kid, because did you have any positive experiences spiritually as a kid? Do you have, some sort of lens that you see the world through that has been kind of ingrained into your spirit and in your mind that you can just kind of tap into to have a foundation to build upon in your early recovery? And that's the kind of discussions that I like to have with people that are just starting out.
What I think is very intuitive, especially nowadays. Here we are in 2021. But when I do a step meeting, I have a step group every Tuesday night for the last couple of years. A lot of new people, men and women in their 30s, mostly men, they have a hard time with the word God. And, and I understand that completely. I think I myself might have had it many years ago as well. But my point is, when this book was written, obviously, back in the late 30s, they gave everybody an option, agnostics an option, atheists an option with a higher power. And, that was so intuitive as to have, in other words, to be where we're at. It was almost like the moon landing. Everything came together. I mean, in spite of what was going on then, the World War II hadn't even broken out yet. But, when I hear people now talk about having a hard time, I think, well, this must have happened to the founders of this program. They must have foreseen this, and it's true, because God's mentioned and so many times throughout the 12 steps.
Absolutely. Seth, when you were in your addiction, you said 29 years old, you got sober, right? If I remember. Okay.
That's right.
And so throughout your addiction, I got sober at 28. I'm only 30 years old, just to let you know, but just kidding.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on my 27 years. Yeah. But anyways, did you lose God, or did you, was there a journey like, you went one path, God went another path, and the God of your understanding, because you said you got humbled and you refocused at one point, but how did that journey meet back up again when you got humble and refocused, as far as using and all that? And basically, what was your bottom, I guess, is what I'm
catalyst,
asking.
Yeah. So for me, the bottom was the last 3 years, really not showing up to shows, not pursuing my career, showing up to auditioning for commercials, high and drunk, and really being super ashamed of myself, locked in my apartment. And where was God in all that? Well, I certainly was shouting out to someone, like when I was just, screaming profanity at the top of my lungs every once in a while, just by thinking about how horrible my life was. I definitely was speaking to someone. And when it got really, really, really down to it and bad, then I was praying. I wasn't telling anybody, but definitely I was praying. And when life got bad enough, then I would pray. And the chaplains that worked with me on my first step 5 and my step 4, what happened was they were like, was God really ever gone then? Were you just kind of dulling your senses to not look for God and look for God's presence? And that's kind of an important part of my realization and my teaching for people, is that, God never abandoned you. It's just a matter of, let's look at where God was when you weren't looking.
That's the old footprints prayer, right? Right. That prayer is amazing, man. My mother had that prayer hanging on her wall for years, and I was drunk, falling down the steps. I'd look up at him like, what the hell is that footprints? I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, it's the last thing I need to see, right? And then one day in recovery, I read it, and I'm like, that is so true. That we were picked up and swept, and just kept on a journey by someone else, our higher power, and I like what you said, praying. Now, my thoughts on praying now versus then, I like to call my prayers then in my use was foxhole prayers. So I only needed God when I need to call on him. Not every morning. I didn't get up every morning, get on my knees. I didn't pray to God every morning, thank him for my drinking and my cocaine use and help me find the dealer, and maybe he'll give me a break day. I didn't pray for any of that stuff. I was praying when I was getting pulled over for that DUI. God, just get me out of this. I swear I'll never buy drugs again. I'll get rid of my dealer's number. That's the prayers that I came up with when I was using. But now I hit my knees every morning, and I thank God for what I have. And it's just a different kind of feeling and tone, and just a nice way to live life.
But I think that's why I like that you say the homecoming too so much, is that because like for me, my practice is it's a practice and it's internal for me. So coming home, it's like it's always been inside me, but I had to like find it in there, and lead it back to where, like you said. So I love that, because I think spirituality is an internal thing for me. So absolutely, I love it.
So okay,
go ahead. No, go right ahead.
So Seth, so you hit your bottom, you were at 29, and what happened? Like, why did you have to leave the stage behind when you got clean? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely.
Because I think it's pretty interesting that you even wrote that in your bio.
Yeah. I had a chance to talk to my family members that loved me, and the one consistent part of feedback from my relatives was, I think it's time you left stand up behind, because I was hospitalized 4 times between the age of 24 and 29. So 4 times in psychiatric care for extended periods of time where my life was in danger. Like it was a serious enough moment of my life, each one of those times, and grave concern from all of my relatives. And they all said the one contributing factor to all of this is drugs, but it's also that you are in this community. It's not making it work for you. Even like some of my comedian peers that I really looked up to, he said, maybe you should be taking a break from this. You got to maybe reevaluate, because it's hard to watch, man, and so when I've said, over the last decade, I've said no to so many things. It's time to just listen to what other people are saying, take their advice, say yes, and take the safest decision and implement that in my life and see how that goes. Because what I've been doing is what I've come up with on my own. And so I'm going to take this consensus from my family and from professionals, and I'm going to apply that to my life. And what happened was I slowly was able to find a new way of life and live healthy again. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so great. We're going to take a quick break here. Seth Perry from Ontario, Canada, guys. We got an out of state, out of country guy here. He might be our first person out of country that's showed up on the podcast.
No, we had somebody from Sweden. Nope. Sweden.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Sweden,
All right.
yes.
Oh yeah, we did.
How would you forget her? I forgot.
Oh my God. Yeah. She's the complete opposite of what Seth is.
Yeah, exactly. This is our Friends in Recovery.
Way more chill in Canada.
Exactly. Podfather, go ahead.
Yeah, Friends in Recovery podcast. We'll be right back.
You're first to respond, first to put others' lives before your own. And in an emergency, you need a network that puts you first, that connects you to technology, to each other, and to other agencies. Built with and for first responders. FirstNet, the only congressionally authorized wireless network for first responders. Because putting you first is our job.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Friends in Recovery Podcast.com. I'm the Podfather, Mike Miles, here with my good friends.
Jersey, yeah, guys.
And New Time with Sky.
That's right.
Noontime.
Noontime with Sky.
Right? Noontime.
Skylar Noon. That's right.
I got to tell you a quick joke before I get into my favorite podcast in the world. You guys know what that is, right?
Well, it should be Friends in Recovery.
But it's not, of course. Real quick. So guy was yelling, Seth, you'll like this joke. Guy was yelling, I need more time in a day. God, I need more time in a day. Guy looks down at the guy and says, you need more me in your day. I probably messed it up, but did you ever hear that joke? No. Oh, no, God, give me more time. Give me more time, God. Okay. God looks down and says, give me more you. Get it? Give me more you. Put more effort into your life. start doing things that are right. So forget it. I am never going to be a comedian. Okay.
No.
I'll tell you who can be.
They don't ever give you second chances on stage.
Did I fail?
Down by the
Did I
river
fail?
soon.
Did I get that hook? Did they pull me away with that hook?
I've seen some comedians get tortured. I swear, it's awful.
God. Well, guys, the real comedians are the Sober Pod guys. Now they are over on the West Coast. And Carl, Ellen, Steve, and Chelsea. Just want to say hello to them because they give Friends in Recovery a shout out every show. So we have to do the same. And the minute they stop, we will stop, I can promise. And then we will add in the YouTube channel simply titled Seth Perry, the most famous podcast that we listen to. Okay. But no, Sober Pod over there on the California coast. We love everybody over there. Just do us a favor, tune into them. They have a lot of good stuff going on over there. They're doing some interview shows now too, guys. I don't know, man. Seth, if Sober Pod calls you, deny going on the show. Do not go on Sober Pod, okay? Because they're trying to be like us now. Anyways, that's enough about them. Sky, real quick Facebook stuff, and then we'll get back to this interview with Seth. And I got some good questions for him.
Yeah, everyone make sure they get involved with sending us your sober dates. On Facebook, we have a Friends in Recovery community support group. It's a private group. And we also have a event coming up for the Friends in Recovery Adventures. And that is April 17th at 10 a.m. And it's the Cherry Blossom Festival in Newark, New Jersey. So if you want more information, like our page on Facebook at Friends in Recovery Adventures page.
Mm-hmm. And also go through Friends in Recovery communities for all the good stuff. And also, that's just in Newark, New Jersey. We're going to do stuff all over the country. So just stay tuned. We're going to have a website. We're really building into this Friends in Recovery thing that Podfather started almost 4 years ago, is really taking off into a new kind of animal here. So Seth Perry, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for putting up with this stuff. I got a quick question I want to ask you. So what was your aha moment? What turned you around? What said, okay, I need to live a better life? Was there something specific? Was it, that homecoming? What was that homecoming? You said you had that homecoming, but what was that? And then I want to get into your YouTube channel. I want to make sure that we really cover that.
Yeah. I think that, most people that I meet that have long-term sobriety or who have stuck around and have made big changes in their life get to that point that you're talking about. And for me, I think that around the 5-month mark, I needed to, make a decision, really, I was committed, to a new way of life, but I needed to find a way to flourish, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So for myself, I was going out and going to church services with some of the guys from the treatment center that I went to. I lived only a block away at a sober house, I got out of treatment. I moved down the block at a sober house, stayed close to the big house. And so, at around 5-6 months clean, I was so close, and I just needed to find my own spiritual footing and have a life flourishing out of the walls of meetings and stuff. And so I'm looking for that, going to church, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. So for anyone out there really who is feeling like, okay, I'm trying something spiritual, but in my gut, this isn't for me, you've got a plethora of options. And so by chance, I just ended up visiting my dad one day, and I was hanging out with him on a Sunday, and he said, why don't you come to church with me? And this is in my hometown. And I went to church, and it was the kind of church that I grew up going to, and it just clicked for me. I was like, the way that people pray here, the way that people, the music and all this felt like I said, it's like a homecoming, right? Mm-hmm. And so for anybody out there, really look for that moment. Look for a moment where, and for some people, their spiritual practice, it might be in a yoga class. And for some people, their spiritual practice, it might be hiking to desolate places and praying, right? Some people might have to go to an indigenous, elder and do some types of ceremonies that they get walked through. So it's whatever works for you. And for me, that's what ended up happening for me.
Cool.
And that's when it clicked. And I said, I'm going to pour my heart into this. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, I want you to put your pastor hat on here.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, good. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see him. No, I'm just kidding. No hats really exchanged here. As far as a pastor, what got you to that level? Obviously church and God and growing up along that, but it takes a certain, and I know you said entertainment and all that, but it takes a certain person to stand up in front of people, to first of all, to talk to people. Number two, to understand what you're talking about. I mean, I can sit out here for 45 minutes and BS about something, and get away with it. But when you're talking to a congregation about spirituality, about God, you have to be on your stuff, I'm guessing, right? So how did that click into recovery and all that stuff? And, how did that form?
So two things really. One of them was, I grew up, I went to Catholic school, and I was also always just involved in stuff at my church. And I had a particular aptitude for that, even from a very early age, right? Like the spiritual side of things, and also just somehow being able to understand and remember parts of scripture or whatever.
Wow.
I just was always drawn to that as a kid. And I had a pretty good spiritual footing at a young age. So that's one part of it. And so, going back into theology and getting my master's degree,
okay.
that academically, that wasn't too much of a stretch for me.
Wow.
The other part was personality wise, it just sort of clicked where I was sitting in church one day, and I started attending the church in the home the hometown that I moved to after going through treatment. And I'm sitting in church, and the pastor's up there, and he's a former prison chaplain, and he was talking about the divisions that he would bridge inside with the population, with the guys, because there's a lot of divisions, like whatever you offended for, it causes a split. And he was talking about how he dealt with that as a prison chaplain. And he was a prison chaplain for a long period of time. And that appealed to me in a way. And I said, somehow I'm able to communicate and talk to people. I have the confidence to be in front of people, where work like that seems like something that I can do. And I somehow got really, really excited. And I said, that's exactly it. This is exactly what I want to do. Wow. So then at about 5-6 months into sobriety, then I said, then I'm changing my whole life right now to make that be the goal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you had this vision. You had a vision. This is what you're going to do, and now you're doing it. Podfather, you and I can relate to that story up into drinking the wine, and when we were altar boys and eating tons of the host and burning the incense, because I used to love to burn those incense when we were altar boys. And but then that's when I can't remember scripture.
So Seth, very interesting listening to you, because I know several people. I've been sober for quite a while, and over the years, I've met several people, especially one from my hometown of Lowell, that also went back to get his master's in theology and become actually a priest, and through the Catholic Church. But he's also recovering. And do you think your recovery like kind of catapulted you in that direction? No doubt about it. I mean, most people get sober the first year or 2 years. They're so confused. They don't know where they're going or what they're doing, And it seems like you kind of got a good hold of this, like 5 months into it.
Yeah,
I agree.
So sobriety definitely must have a big part. Do you still attend meetings and do stuff like that? Do you talk about the 12 steps of recovery and the big book and with your clients, people that come see you? I'm sure you're not up on the podium preaching it, but is it part of your repertoire when you're helping people?
Always. Yeah, absolutely. I had to do hospital chaplaincy training, and that dovetailed very, very, very well with recovery, because I'd be working with people in their hospital rooms, and they'd be challenged with certain things, and they'd be powerless as they sat there in their beds while they got a terminal cancer diagnosis, or while they were diagnosed with congestive heart failure, or they were told that they have 4 to 8 days to live, and you're working with people in palliative care and recovery somehow dovetail well together. And the people that were teaching me how to do that were like, you know what? You have this whole recovery story. Why don't you just lean into that and learn from that? But this whole journey of mine, sure, I had a vision about what I wanted to do, but then I had to suffer through 5 years of figuring out how to do it.
Right. I hear you.
Yeah. But most people, when somebody comes, I always tell this story about Michael Jordan. When we saw him on TV, it dates me a little bit, but I don't know who's the updated guy, whoever he is. But
if still wear shoes, you're good.
Yeah. So 3-point line. Every time we see him, jump shots, dunks, amazing plays. But we don't see the years and years of practice, getting up early, standing on that 3-point line, taking hundreds of thousands of jump shots, 3-point shots, foul shots. We don't see that. We see ESPN with the highlight with him, his arm up and stuff like that. That's not normal. You know what I mean? The normal thing is exactly what you spoke about. Those 5 years of building up and being where you're at, and you deserve what you got 100%, no doubt about it. I'm very, very, very proud of you. That's great. I do want to shift gears a little bit here, because I know we're going to be coming to the end of the show, and I want everybody to find out, because we can find out more about you on your YouTube channel, Seth Perry.
That's right.
I know that's something that you're really kind of pushing and getting this out there, because it's really good. There's a lot of good messages on it about recovery and a lot of good information. So if you want to explain a little bit about what the Seth Perry YouTube channel is about, and some of the shows that are on there and all that.
So what I was thinking, over the last 12 months, before I released the channel, which was last January 1st, 2020, I was thinking, how could I speak about spirituality in a general way and speak about recovery in a general way that was useful for people? And so what I did was started writing down a few topics. Maybe I'll talk about atheism. Maybe I'll talk about agnosticism. Maybe I'll just do a episode titled Higher Power. And what I want to do is I want to capture a little bit of my raw reaction in talking about this topic. So when I shoot a video, I shoot myself speaking on it for 1 minute. I give myself 1 minute to either completely flood my way through it or possibly dazzle, but most likely it's a mixture of the two. There's a little bit of good in each message when I give myself that 1 minute slot to just talk about that, and then I spend the rest of the video picking apart what I said. And evaluating that.
Sounds interesting. Very interesting.
Very.
And so I think that the purpose of having this YouTube channel is for people from any walk of life spiritually to come to, and to not get an opinionated, evangelized message of spirituality. It's instead supposed to be a place of dialogue where I can answer questions. So sometimes people pose questions. I'm always active on Reddit with people, and I'm getting questions about spirituality from different forums on spirituality and recovery, so that I can answer real addicts' questions about those types of things, and just give myself a minute to give my best shot at that.
What's interesting is, I'm listening to you, and you're so knowledgeable. But I think what's very interesting, in when people get sober, addicts, alcoholics, when we get sober, we understand. We start seeing things a little differently. When we're using, we don't think about life having a shelf, life in general having a shelf life. In other words, we're going to live forever. We don't really worry about it. But all of a sudden we get our marbles back, and we have common sense, and we start realizing, hey, you know what, this isn't forever. There's gotta be some type of answer. Why are we here? First of all, I don't want to listen to the scientific, although it's very interesting. I possibility. I'm not closed-minded, but the older you get, the longer you're sober, you start realizing, there's a reason, and if you're fortunate enough to find recovery, I think a lot of people are happy just with that. But I think people that get propelled further, like yourself, and have a message, it's just, it just makes my day to even hear you speak. So it's wonderful. Wonderful having you as a guest. I want to say
it is. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was awesome. And I think that the YouTube channel, that's a great way to go about it, because spirituality, like I said, it's inside for me, but like it might not be for you. And there's so many different forms. And in your bio, it said you adapt to where people are at. Like it's like you meet them where they're at. And that's really awesome, because like that's what we need. We need someone to not tell us what to do. Don't do this, don't do that.
Right.
It's like, well, here's what I think, but I'm here to listen. Or, what do you think is the best way that you've noticed like a good response from people, from like, when you're being like adaptive to them, right? And their beliefs, what is something you can do and practice, as me in your field too, as well, working with other addicts? What's something I can do like you, that you see as a good result that you practice while you are adapting to different people's spiritualities?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to let people know that you're going to value their time and listen to what they have to say first and foremost, as a statement. When we walk into a chaplaincy situation, or as a pastor, when I'm meeting people at their home, you can pick things out if you've been doing it for a while, just by the sense of where they're at. Like, what are they grieving? Are they in pain in some way? And it's, so instead of going who, what, when, where, why, and just questioning, hey, whatever, just let them know, first and foremost, I'm here to listen, and I want to be someone who's going to be supportive of really anything that you bring forward about what's going on for you spiritually, or anything in your life. So I just want to let you know that. And so, you can tell me anything. That's an important statement to start with. Like, I'm going to listen. The other part is that, like I said, questions can sometimes shut someone down, right? So instead, I make observable statements about people in their spiritual journey. And that's where things can really open up. The other thing is, it's all right if you're working with another person, this goes for any addict. If you're working with another person, it's all right to just attentively be quiet and just hold space in a moment with them and see what happens, because they know you're there, and it just might take them 3 minutes of silence to get to the point where they're going to let loose the real thing that's deep down for them, Yeah.
Silence is golden.
Who didn't get goosebumps?
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you saying, Podfather?
No, I'm just saying silence is golden. I remember when I was getting my master's in social work, these professors, these therapists, they were all PhDs, and they had their own private practice. And the first client I had was a drug addicted woman, Latino woman. And I just remember asking one of the professors, so when we're doing our first session, after we do the initial evaluation and we start communicating, what if they don't want to speak? What do I have to do? Entertain them? And she said, no, you just sometimes just sit there and it'll happen. I said, well, how long? What's the, she said, as long as you want to, and I've sat literally, which if you think of it, 3 minutes is a very long time.
Not talking.
Yeah. I've sat 3 minutes, and then I've had people get up and say, well, I guess that's it, and leave. But then all of a sudden they break down and they start talking about something they were deep in thought about. So I think it's very interesting to hear somebody else say that from a different avenue, as far as like going to someone's home as a minister, not as a somebody in recovery. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, Seth, and thank you so much for this. We really appreciate it.
Yes,
we got a couple minutes left here, but Seth Perry, a recovering addict, and his YouTube channel titled simply Seth Perry. Please check it out. Subscribe to it, just like us. Subscribe and like us and all that stuff. But make sure you get on Seth's channel, subscribe to that, and make that part of your daily routine. I can't stress that enough. Daily routines are very important, especially to us addicts and alcoholics, that we have some kind of structure in our life. And I do suggest making Seth's your besides our podcast, but making that your part of your daily routine. Seth, do you want to real quick tell us how we can get a hold of you, how we can find you on YouTube and all that good stuff before we close? And of course, all that'll be in the show notes, but some people have to hear it too.
Yeah, you can get a hold of me at veganpastor1@gmail.com. That's veganpastor1@gmail.com. You can, I always check my direct messages on Instagram. So that's at veganpastor. And you can find me you can also find me on Reddit. I'm really active on the recovery thread in Reddit and on various other, and you can find me. I'm SETHPRR0 on Reddit, and that's how I collect a lot of questions and interactions with my users who watched the channel. And I always check my Reddit direct messages as well. And I think my phone number is in the bio or in the notes here. You can always text me or contact me there too. Yeah.
Good. Seth Perry, thank you very much. Great show, guys. And, it's just good to hear just a refreshing kind of story and not doom and gloom, just, how you turned your life around and where you're at today and what you're doing for others to turn their life around. We need more of that. We really do. And thank you so much.
Ed, you got to check out the titles of all his videos too. Like they're super catchy.
I know.
They're super catchy. Can I smoke green and stay clean? You know what I mean? Like spirituality or psychosis. Is it spirituality or psychosis? Like they're really catchy and interesting. So you guys got to check them out. Can I smoke green and stay clean? I mean, I love it.
That is good. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen a couple of those.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot, Seth. Thank you very much.
Seth, thank you so much. Podfather, you want to any closing words? Anybody have any closing words?
No, just a very good podcast. Good having a guest like Seth on, and I'm sure I'm going to check out what Skylar's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say one thing, guys, what Seth was talking about, and this brings us back to Friends in Recovery communities, is flourishing outside the meetings, man. I so identified when he talked about that. And, I was afraid to step outside those meetings. What if I have a non-sober friend? Can I stay sober? It was scary, but Friends in Recovery adventures, that's another way of stepping outside the meetings and get involved with the adventures, get involved with Friends in Recovery, because we can help you get outside the meetings and then get outside with some non-sober friends that are just kind of what we do. We all have one thing in common, is just to lead a happy and healthy life. So
right. And don't be
I really liked what he said about that.
Sure. And don't be afraid to take chances. I mean, 5 months of sobriety, he decided to make a change in his life. And,
amazing.
I've heard people that have been sober 30 years, and that's all they do is go to meetings. They're happy with their lives. But I've seen a lot of people that have changed their lives and, really, really put the pedal to the metal. And, don't be afraid to take chances. As long as you're staying sober, you can do anything.
Absolutely. Well, right. Podfather,
Friends
another great
recovery.
show.
Yep, it was a great show. And
absolutely.
Skylar, you got any?
Here?
No, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to check out some more of the videos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Seth.
Good.
Friends in Recovery podcast. Stay sober, everyone.
Yep, stay sober, guys.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House, FirstNet, built with AT&T, for supporting those on the path to recovery and keeping this valuable resource free for all our friends in recovery. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Brought to you by Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery. If you can't get enough of Mike, the Podfather, Jersey Ed, and Skylar, you can catch them on Answering the Call, the First Responders Podcast, available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and GenesisHouse.net.